After his striker career, he took a wonderful opportunity with the Nuvasive team down in Arizona, built a successful business, $2 million. Mental health, he kind of expressed it to me that, he suffered from depression. I remember it vividly. We had just finished sushi dinner. He leaving dinner, and I just asked him, I was like, dude, everything's going well, James, right? Like, you're killing it, you're doing so well, you just bought a house. And I look at him and I was just like not seeing the same face that I'm normally seeing, not that big giant smile. And he's like, I'm just not okay, Showman. A week later, I lost him. Another episode of Death of a Spine Salesman. Today, we are here at Almaden Lake Park in Almaden, California. Very special place for me. As a young kid, took my float tube out, really big largemouth bass. You might hear the tone in my voice because today is a somber episode and it's all about mental health for people in the medical device industry as representatives. And we're gonna talk about subjects that are thought-provoking, that are really complex, but again, all around the mental health aspect. And it's in honor of one of my closest friends who we are coming up on his 4-year anniversary of his passing. That is James Milstein. A lot of you in the industry knew James. James was a beautiful human, a beautiful soul. 4 years ago, he took his own life, and it's still a lasting impression. And I think about him every day, and, I have this in my wallet of James, of just a reminder of the impact that he's had on me. I keep him right next to me everywhere I go because I know he's with me. But the message is this: mental health is real and it's affected so many in our business, me included. I want to talk about a few things. But before we do that, I just want to mention about James, tell you some stories about James Milstein. So I had the pleasure of meeting James Milstein when we were working at Stryker Spine. And we were looking for an associate, and we got all these resumes, and James's look, it was a great resume only because it talks about how he was a Navy SEAL. I was like, okay, a Navy SEAL, I hear a lot about these military folks coming into our business and extremely successful. So right away, he goes to the front of the stack and, he goes through the interview process and we hired James. And he was under another senior team, but I always made it a point to mentor him. I took an absolute infinity for him and I love him. We talked on the regular, and so James was hired as an associate at Stryker. One of his first missions, as we called it, it's his first week, and we're sending him for a lumbar decompression in Napa. He doesn't know what an instrument is. He's never been in an operating room. And so I'm talking to him as he's driving up to Napa from San Francisco, talking to him about what an instrument is, what a Kerrison is, what is a Curette, what is a Woodson, what is a Penfield, and I'm trying to describe them to him. Not only that, I'm trying to tell him what the environment of the operating room is. Now, you might think that's careless to send someone in at that time, but James asked for it. James wanted to deploy himself, and after that decompression, the surgeon doing the procedure had no idea that that was his first week. So that was the kind of start. I was like, okay, this guy means business. And I hadn't met him face to face. And I was doing a lot of work at the VA of Palo Alto, and I brought him in on his first case, and only fitting, right? James was ex-Navy SEAL. The only reason why he didn't go fully into the program was because he took an injury and had a lumbar issue at L5-S1, a significant spondy that he eventually got surgery on, and we'll talk about that. Yeah, so James's first assignment with me face-to-face was at the VA of Palo Alto. We're waiting in between cases, and it's lunchtime, and he had packed his lunch. I, of course, went to the cafeteria, got a salad because I got to mind my figure. James proceeds to bring 2 bags of meat. When I saw him, I knew this guy was a specimen. He was jacked, 0 body fat, just ginormous. I could tell this guy was straight out of buds. He meant business, but always greeted with me with a smile, a handshake, wonderful human. At that lunch, he put out 2 bags of meat, 1 tri-tip, 1 chicken. By the time I could even get through my delicate salad, he was already done with 2 bags. That's James Milstein. After his Stryker career, he took a wonderful opportunity with the Nuvasive team down in Arizona, built a successful business, $2 million. And James, you never would have known what he was really kind of battling with. Mental health, he kind of expressed it to me that, he suffered from depression at points of his life, but I didn't fully understand what depression was. And while he was at NuVasive, everything was great. Like I said, multi-million-dollar territory. He was working with one of our closest friends, Maziar Kalani at the Mayo. He had a great team, and Brandon and Kevin and all his colleagues down there. But there was still a sadness to this sweet man. You know, we always stayed in contact. We had a regular cadence of conversations each week. It always shifted to work, but I tried to shift it back to personal and to really understand what's going on in his life. He had some turbulent kind of relationships there. And so the final week I ever got to see my friend, I remember it vividly. We had just finished sushi dinner, and he leaving dinner, and I just asked him, I was like, dude, everything's going well, James, right? Like, you're killing it, you're doing so well, you just bought a house. And I look at him and I was just like not seeing the same face that I'm normally seeing, not that big giant smile. And he's like, I'm just not okay, Showman. And I go, what do you mean you're not okay, right? Just didn't understand what he was battling. He's just like, I'm just not okay. And I could tell my friend was not doing well. And a week later, I lost him. And it still really hurts to think about because, you know, have a lot of regret of not doing more. And I'm sure a lot of people on the end of this camera can relate to this. So going back to the whole mental health aspect, this job can beat the shit out of you. You have to deal with so many personalities, from SPD to circulators to surgical techs, and then you have surgeons, and then you have C-suites, plus the credentialing systems that we have to bob and weave through, to wearing red hats, to rep scrubs and paper scrubs. Oh my, it's endless. They want to beat us down. Majority of the reps that are in our business are happy people, me included. I've been a punching bag for years, and I keep coming back, but no, look, it's effed with me significantly. I lost a job at Medtronic. I lost a job at Globus, all based on attitude because I felt all alone. I was on an island. You know, I was very successful, performed at the highest level. It was a shallow and very lonely time, you know, and a lot of reps get in that situation. It's like they've created this silo and they're not willing to ask for help, mostly because they're type A people, but there's so much shade being thrown on the individual because they're happy, because they bounce into a hospital, they're extremely happy, and someone wants to beat them down and wants to beat the energy out of you. You know, so this is speaking to you because I've just been in the field a lot lately, and I've come across some good individuals with good hearts that I could tell they're hurting. And I took them aside, and this is one individual that, you know, he was just had a bad breakup with his live-in girlfriend. And he wasn't even on my team. I could tell he was hurting. I took him aside and we kind of spoke about it. And I told him, like, these jobs are worth it, but they're not worth it, right? So you have to take care of yourself. There's also customers out there, and our surgeons, and I hope they hear this and they do better. Surgeons have the ability to prey on representatives, to actually beat them down, because those poor souls have had to go through that in residency and fellowship. And I'm not saying that's not good. Look, I got my ass whooped when I was younger. It only motivated me to be better because I knew certain repercussions, but there's a better way. And surgeons, when you're dealing with a representative, they don't need to be a punching bag. There's a way to teach them appropriately when they do something wrong. Just know there are feelings there. You know, you have no idea what's going on in that person's life. So this was me to come on and take a little moment to hit a reset button for every one of you out there to know that you're not alone. You know, I don't know what kind of resources out there. I've always found human resources was whack. They never understood exactly what we dealt with. When I was being fired from Medtronic, as I was going through a divorce and like just not happy with the gig I had, human resources person was way out of her league. She was standing by a corporate kind of thing and she didn't know what to say to kind of help me get out of that. Now, human resources could do better with these big companies, but finding your tribe, finding the people that are closest to you, your teammates that you rely on. I hope managers hear this and like, no, you're not just a manager. You should be the psychiatrist, the psychotherapist for a lot of your representatives. Lead with the heart. Be empathetic about these things because it's truly important. You can save someone's life. And that's what I carry with me a lot as I do this job. And that is my message for you all. If you are suffering from this, I am happy to take a call and talk you through it. Unfortunately, I've had to take so many calls regarding this subject, and I've actually had to call a lot of people for myself, and I've got my close-knit tribe that I can rely on, a wonderful partner, wonderful colleagues, and I just want to let you know and reiterate that you're not alone. You know, this is the message in honor of my good friend James Milstein, who passed March 24th, 4 years ago. You're still in my heart. I'm still thinking of you. I'm gonna do more on this subject. I mean, I was thinking of what scholarship fund I can do. There is actually a James Milstein college fund by ASU, Arizona State University, that his mom and father created for him. So Google it, James Milstein. I'm gonna put some pictures on him so you can see how beautiful his face was. You know, again, if you need help, don't hesitate to ask for it. Thank you so much. This is Shomit James, Death of a Spine Salesman. Thank you for joining me on this very important message.